Hello, listeners, and welcome back to I Never Knew What My Dog Did podcast. So happy that you have joined me again. I decided today was a really good day to create some new content because it was an inspiring day. I am your host, Maureen Scanlon. I am a certified master life coach, author, and someone who believes that becoming a better human being doesn't require perfection, it requires awareness. Today, we're talking about something that seems simple, but is actually one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves. How do I become a better human being? So, let me tell you about today. And I'm doing something unusual today, which is recording at night, which I don't normally do, but I figured I had all of this on my heart because of what I did today, and I'll tell you what that was. Um, I just, sometimes your brain just gets so full of things that you just have to share with everyone. And I know this platform and this podcast and my beautiful, wonderful listeners need this kind of encouragement, I think, in their lives. So today I attended the Pride Festival in our town. And, you know, it's interesting. There's things that I think are so simple that make life fun and um, loving, but yet some people just make it very difficult. So it's like in coaching when I tell people you got to get out of your head, you're bogged down with all the garbage of the past or the belief system that's been given to you. So what I love about pride is, it doesn't just apply to sexual orientation, but it's just when I go there and I'm around people who are so accepting, non-judgmental, free to be themselves, and really are just there to really embrace and support one another. There was a group there today that said free mom hugs, which I thought was super cool. So for those who, don't have families that support them, this awesome group is hey, we're going to be there for you. We're going to be the mom, the substitute surrogate mom, to let you know that we love you and care about you. So it was really cool. We went down early and we went and had some like brunch, lunch, and we go to this awesome restaurant. And the general manager is pretty busy because it was, Pride. Um, General manager comes over, introduces himself. We just have this wonderful conversation. And we have our pride shirts on. My husband has one on, that says proud ally. And I have one on that says all places should be safe spaces, which really is what I think anywhere, whether it's because of your race, because of your religious beliefs, because of whatever. I think every place should be a safe space for you to be yourself and to express who you are. Because we're all different. That's why we're here. And yes, I may have this Pollyanna view that we can get there one day, and that, in my little fantasy world that I was in Atlantis at one point. But, um, in all seriousness, I'm walking out. As we were walking out of the restaurant, there was a group of ladies next to us, and I just said, "Hey, happy Pride!" And the one sweet girl, she was like, "Happy Pride, baby." It was just, it's so freeing to be around people who are free. I think that's really my point. But the general manager came over and we're talking about pride, and I'm very supportive of that with my business in Arizona. I was part of the neighborhood community of businesses. And the organizer, the head guy, his name is Richard, who is the organizer of Pride. It's the fifth year. And the general manager had him come over and speak with us, and we just had this great conversation. Of course, it's uplifting, and he was just energetic and happy and proud of, putting this thing together. It was just so cool because it was just so many people coming together and just being happy to support one another and just being free to be themselves. I think I'm going to keep saying that. I will probably in this hour uh, go off on little mini tangents, maybe nice tangents, but mini ones, and soapbox, moments that really I'm passionate about. But all in all, this whole podcast, this Moment with Maureen podcast, is going to be about, the smallest little thing you can do to become a better human. That there's five simple things that you can do to be a better human. And as a life coach, forgive my voice, still not quite healed yet. Um, as a life coach, that's my biggest thing is giving people this sort of list or this kind of plan or of what they can do because that's what everybody does when they come to coaching is what are the things that I can change, Maureen? I want something tangible. And so I'm going to give you some tangible things today. But we went, of course, over to Pride and just met so many fantastic people. And it really got me to thinking why I wanted to do this today was how simple it is to just be loving and to just I can live next door to someone who is a different race, a different sexual orientation, a different, religion or belief system, and I can still be kind and I can still be passionate and I can still be compassionate, about hearing them and listening to them and being there. I want you to, for one moment, I want you to think when things are really difficult in your life or you have a decision to make or you're just really down and you need to talk to someone, I want you to think about the people in your life that you surround yourself with. And when I say, who would you go talk to? Who's the first person that comes into your mind that you would go speak to? I want you to think about that person. And what I want you to do is think about why they're the person that you choose. I want you to think about what is it that makes you feel vulnerable with them? What makes you feel safe, unjudged, uncriticized, and loved by that person? And then I want you to think about becoming that person for everybody else. And that's really, for me, that's always my goal is I want to be that person that everyone knows I'm a safe place. No matter what it is, whatever you need, I'm here. If you need me to listen, if you need advice, if you need a hug, if you need, let's just go have some fun together. Like I want to be that person. And that's why I want to talk about how we can help each other to be better human beings. So, how do I become a better human being? And I don't mean being richer or more successful or more popular or all those things that we see on social media that make us sort of envious of someone. But I want you to think about how you can be better. So what makes a better person, right? So because at the end of the lives of our lives, people aren't going to remember how many followers you had or how much money you had. They're going to remember how you made them feel. So, in a world where people are so divided, distracted, reactive and disconnected more than ever, being a genuinely good human being has become this superpower, which in a way is kind of sad. Um, but I guess that's just the nature of being a human, right? Something that happened today, so I posted on Facebook. um, about Pride. I said Happy Pride Month, and I had a picture of my husband and I. And I don't normally like to put any energy toward negativity or people who are negative. But this is interesting because this is really why I needed to do this conversation today. There was I'm not sure I want to call her a lady, but there was a female who commented, and her comment was blah, blah, blah. and that was just, first of all, I go by the rule. Is it true? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Well, it was neither true, necessary, or kind to comment on my page where I was enjoying myself and supporting a community that is fighting to be heard and to be accepted. There was no need for her blah, blah, blah comment. The other comment I got was from a gentleman who said, um, again, this lack of acceptance of one another about something about it's fine if you want to be on the wrong side be on the devil's side and not the side of God. Well, if your belief system is that of a God who judges people, then I'm not sure that's the God I would want to be under anyway or follow anyway. That's just, again, my belief. I'm not getting into politics, religion, or anything. I'm just saying, you know, I believe in a higher power, and I believe that higher power is innately loving and loves all of us. So to throw out something that's so mean and divisive and judgy. Again, not necessary, not true, not kind. So that was one of the reasons I'm like, you know what? We need to spread more of the kindness and the acceptance and the loving, and all places should be safe spaces. So that was what prompted me to do this today. So let's talk about how being a good human, isn't about being perfect. I know that's such a big thing when I coach is people think that perfection is achievable, which it is not because you're a human and humans are imperfect. But one of the biggest misconceptions that people think is if I'm perfect, then I'm a better person, but that's not it. Being perfect doesn't make you a good human. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. This whole podcast is about people who have experienced or made mistakes or been hurt or received mistreatment. So I don't think perfection helps us in any way, and it doesn't connect us. That's for sure. There's no relatability for me. I can't relate to someone who's perfect because I've had an imperfect life and I'm imperfect. So perfection creates pressure. So you're always going to be not just judging other people, but when you want to be perfect, you're going to judge yourself for every time you're not perfect. And that's just not possible because you're having a human experience. Part of the human experience is experiencing things that are not perfect, right? So you don't have to get everything right. Better human is simply being someone who's willing to learn, evolve, and take responsibility. And I think that's self-awareness. That self-awareness is where all the transformation begins because when I can see my faults or my flaws or my imperfections, then I can see where I want to improve those things and try to be better, right? Be that better human being. So the trending problem nobody's talking about right now is that what's happening is we're living in a culture of outrage, right? So social media, rewards reactions. Like it's almost like we've gotten to this level where we need drama and we needed these little 30-second clips. We need to see lots of drama, lots of reactions. The news rewards fear. Algorithms reward division, right? You're going to get more of what you believe. You're not going to get this spectrum of everything. So you can have an open mind and learn about things that are opposite of you, and we're constantly being told, who's wrong. And people are becoming experts at judging other people while becoming strangers to themselves. So rarely are we asked, how can I improve? What can I improve about myself? Here's some questions to ask yourself. 4 questions. Am I listening? Am I learning? Am I contributing? Which I love that one. And am I growing? So real growth starts when blame stops. So we're internalizing, right? We're taking accountability. Now we're looking self-aware. We're aware of self, of the things that we need to do better before we can possibly point those fingers. What's that saying? When you point your finger at someone, there's three more back, four more point, no, three more pointing back at you. Three, one, two, three. Um, and what's cool about this is it was neat because there were like dog booths there today, and I have a dog boutique, but we didn't have a booth there. But they were veterinarians and those sorts of things. But it really it's no surprise that there were a lot of dog people at Pride. Why? Because dogs are unconditionally loving, right? They're our greatest teachers. They don't care about status. They don't care about your sexual orientation. They don't care about politics. They don't care about the car that you drive. Here's what they care about: presence, connection, consistency, and love. Think about that. Could you be as good as your dog or a dog? Are you always present? Are you always trying to connect with others? Are you consistent in being this compassionate person? Are you always that way with everyone, or do you just pick and choose people who can get you something that you want? And are you always thinking about love? Fantastic thing today that I saw. Corporate sponsors were eBay, and on the eBay shirts, the back of it said "Love wins," and that is something I have. That's my grandson's and my saying when he's frustrated or he has a situation, and I just always say to him, "Hey, buddy, love wins," and he's actually going to get a tattoo um, representative of myself to remind him, and it's going to say "Love wins," and I think that's cool that that stuck. That those two words, love wins. So your dog doesn't need you to be perfect, right? Your dog needs you to be authentic. They see you at your worst. They see you when you take your makeup off at night. They see you when you're sick. They see you when you're down or sad or angry. And maybe that's the greatest lesson that some of the greatest lessons that they teach is that the world doesn't need more perfect people. The world needs more genuine people. And I think that's what dogs really teach us because they don't care about anything except loving you as you are. And so that's such a neat um that's a neat way the dogs show us. I mean, if we can get to a world where we are as innately loving and accepting as dogs and children, poof, man, what a wonderful world it would be. I think there's a song. Um, so here's the five qualities of better human beings. And these are the five things that you can work on to be a better human being, right? So here's one quality. Better human beings take responsibility. Man, that is that's huge. Have you ever had conflict with someone and instead of them continuously trying to fight to be right or you trying to fight to be right, they say, "You know what? You're right. I shouldn't have said that," or "I was out of line," or "I overreacted." It changes the trajectory of the conversation, of that communication, also how you view that person. It's so much more loving to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry that I, excuse me, that I did this thing that wasn't nice or it wasn't appropriate or it wasn't um, a positive thing for our relationship." I mean, taking accountability is so huge, whether it's work or relationships or family or even accountability, responsibility to yourself, saying, I did not like myself when I did this thing. And that's something I have really, really worked on. And, in this year of struggle and having to ask for a lot of help, it was a big thing for me to say, man, I can be reactive. When I'm in pain, I'm pretty reactive. I'm a competitive person. I mean, we all have flaws, um, those are the things that I struggle with are things that I think we all do, listeners, and tell me, what you struggle with. I'd love your feedback. Um, a couple of things that I struggle with are forgiveness. And that forgiveness is forgiveness of myself, but also forgiveness of people who have intentionally hurt someone or done something that hurt someone, specifically my friends and family. I'm very much a mama bear and I'm very protective, and it's hard. Like my kids are grown now, and there's friends of theirs that did something to them when they were teenagers that I'm still like, oh, I don't like that person because they did this, when they were 15 or whatever. My husband reminds me of that. He'll call me mint chocolate, saying that I have a chip on my shoulder, but it's really just I really, because I'm so passionate about treating people well, that when, oh look, my kitty came to join us. That's Grayson, the star of my children's book. My cat Grayson is not like me. He came to say hello. Um, Sorry about that little squirrel moment, but that's one of the things I struggle with. The other thing is fairness, you know, just and what's fair. And that's a hard thing to struggle with in a world where you're always going to see things there's injustice for or unfair. Um, that's something I've had to really, really work on. Um, and what I use in my coaching, I've had to use myself, and that is my circle of control, to keep that struggle. So the circle of control is, you know, can I change somebody else's words? Like I'm responsible for my actions. So within my circle of control, I'm responsible for my words. I'm responsible for my actions. I'm responsible for my feelings. I'm responsible for my thoughts. I'm responsible for my behaviors. And so if there's something outside of that circle that I have no control over, like politics, leadership, other people's belief systems, just mean people in the world or rude people or people who like to leave comments that they had no business leaving because there was no reason to. I have to pull myself back into this circle of control and remembering what it is that I can control. And that's my ability to be a better human. So maybe someone did this thing that I can't control, but what I can control is my interactions with the people that are in my life and around me. And so it's very, very interesting. And that saying, you get more bees with honey. It is so true. And there's been moments through this last, year and a half of health struggle where, I'm frustrated, I'm in pain, um, I can't get heard. People don't understand pain when they're not in pain, and medical professionals get kind of numb to symptoms that people are having, because they see a lot of people. So getting them to believe my personal journey and my struggles, I want to be heard, and sometimes I'm not. So back to I can only control my reactions. And so I would always try, for the most part, to remember they're doing their job and they're trying to help me. And I can't take out, my pains or my frustrations from another doctor, what they did or didn't do. I can't take it out on this doctor. And so it's a lot. And I know a lot of you who've had, medical gaslighting, done to them or had these, long-term medical issues. It's tough. It is so tough to continue to be nice, to be patient and kind, you know. I always say you don't need to be nice because that's not authentic, but be kind and patient. That's something I definitely try to work on. So the next area that makes a good person is practicing kindness. Kindness is not weakness. It is strength. As I was just saying, continuing to be kind in a situation that you're frustrated in, that is a superpower. When you just want to lash out or you just want to shake someone because they're not hearing you, um, it's tough. And especially, the world encourages criticism. And so kindness, it costs nothing. You don't even know the smallest act of kindness or the smallest, um, words of encouragement, how much it can change someone else's life. And they can come back years later and say, I remember you said this, and you'll be like, what? I don't even remember saying it, but it makes a difference. My motto, the starfish story, it mattered to that one. So speak kindly, be kind, do kind acts. Um, the next thing with a being a better person or being a good person quality is staying curious. Curiosity creates understanding. And if you don't understand something, that doesn't mean you're allowed to criticize it. You should ask questions because judgment creates division. And that's why we've had wars. If we don't try to understand where the other person's coming from or what the other side um, is doing or why they're doing it. And a better human being asks questions before making assumptions. So that's a great quality to have. Just stay curious. The next quality is apologizing. Now, that's a rough one for some of us, I know. Um, I do remember growing up that the belief system in my home was that, my parents were the adults and they wouldn't have to apologize to us. We were the children. Um, Sorry about the barking. Um, that was tough to grow up with that belief system and then as an adult to be able to apologize was tough, but that was something I determined to do with my kids, that I would apologize when I was wrong. So they understood that mom and dad are human too, and mom and dads make mistakes, and that's okay. Otherwise, a child will continuously need that. They will strive for that perfection because they've never been apologized to or made to believe that anybody else made mistakes other than them. So that's really crucial. So for you parents out there, I just want you to know, apologizing to your children will teach them about accountability and that it's okay to make mistakes and that they don't need to be perfect, but they do need to own it and they need to apologize. Being right is overrated and being accountable is life-changing. A sincere apology can heal relationships, families, and friendships. Now, that being said, I don't want, there are people in our lives that don't deserve, and I say this in the utmost kindest way, and I'm not saying that everybody doesn't deserve kindness because they do, but there are people in your life that you are able to separate from. You don't have to constantly apologize for things that you weren't responsible for. Um, there was a saying, I used to say this, um, don't apologize for bonds you didn't break. That is one of my favorite sayings because a lot of times we chase these relationships that really weren't meant to be in our lives, or they ran their course. And I've had that with some friendships and I've had that with some family. And when I know I've put in all of my effort, all of my abilities to be a better person to that person, and it's not received, then it's okay for me to separate from it. It doesn't mean I need to be nasty. It doesn't mean I need to, get revenge or whatever, but I don't have to chase things that aren't meant for me. And that is probably, I hope that's one of the things maybe my family and my generations, my grandkids remember is, and I hope listeners, you take this nugget with you is don't apologize for things that were not created by you and that don't serve you. So it's okay to separate. Um, and again, being kind is just moving yourself away from the situation and not continuing to, you know, keep keep these reactions and these actions going for something that really is not good for your energy. So that's a whole nother podcast. But the fifth the fifth quality of better human beings and good human beings is to continue to grow. And that is why I love life coaching because I help people to grow. And you have to evolve. That's just energy. Energy evolves, it's transferred, it's constantly, building. And so growing is really important and growth never ends. And the best people I know, they're lifelong students. I mean, here I am, heading on 60. No, well, I just had a birthday. Okay, I'm close to 55 still. I'm 56, but I am a sponge. I still want to learn. I want to learn everything there is for me, what interests me is this human emotion, human interaction, human connection, psychology. Why do we think the way we do? Why do we behave the way we do? So I'm just a sponge when it comes to those things. So find something you're passionate about and be a sponge and just keep growing. And the willingness to admit that you don't know everything. So again, those that are not willing to grow, such as, the person that made the comment about, you must be on the devil's side if you believe this kind of stuff. And that's not growth. I have a belief system, and if you don't believe it, then you're a terrible person. You're not my fellow human. I shut you down, and that's not growth. That's stunting. And so saying, tell me about that. Oh, wow, really? Tell me about that. That's something I love to say. Tell me about what your belief, what your religion is. What do you believe? What does your religion teach you? Um, families that have been, dysfunctional or in disarray. And I like to ask, how is that? Tell me about that. Instead of judging and saying, oh God, you came from a crazy, crazy bunch of people, which we all came from a crazy bunch of people. And we're all crazy bunches of people who are raising more crazy bunches of people. But that's the beauty of us because we are imperfect. So relationships are the mirror. And as a relationship coach, I tell something to clients that really surprises them. One of the things I say is relationships reveal us. They reveal our fears, they reveal our triggers and our communication patterns. So when I do, it's interesting when I do, like couples coaching, um, I introduce the couples to how the other person receives information. And it has like opened eyes, it has opened up minds where instead of saying they don't listen to me, they don't hear me, they don't understand me. Well, a lot of times we're speaking and communicating based on the way that we receive it, but not based on the way the other person receives it. And so that is one of the key things. If you are around people, listen to how they receive. So one of the things that I love is there's different ways. I saw a TED Talk and I cannot recall at the moment who did it. And they talked about the different ways that people receive information. And you can hear people how they receive information by the way they speak. So I am a visual and So there's visual, there's auditory, and then there's the emotional. So you'll hear someone say, so what that looks like to me is, well, that's a visual person. Um, Someone who's auditory is going to say, so what I hear you saying is blah, blah, blah. Someone who's emotional will say, I feel like you, blah, blah, blah. So it's so easy to figure out how someone will receive the information that, you're trying to give them and how much more open they'll be if you're basically, it's like speaking a different language, without an interpreter. If I'm going to say I'm a visual receiver and someone is an emotional one, if I'm saying what I see is you, blah, 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 well, that's like, someone who speaks Japanese with someone who speaks French. It's lost in translation. So really work on that. Really work on listening to how the people around you receive their information. It's actually kind of a fun exercise and really, couples who've been together for years and are on the brink of divorce, suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, all these years I've been doing this and I didn't realize this is how she needed me to hear her. So that's kind of a fun thing. Um, Definitely the triggers. That's a hard thing because we are not mind readers. We did not live each other's experiences. And so it's difficult for us to, shall we say, um, filter ourselves based on someone else's experiences. That would be a very hard thing to do unless they have spoken things that are obvious, such as in my case, abuse. Physical abuse in relationships, psychological abuse. So there are definite triggers that my husband would know he's not going to say or do because he knows that was pretty prevalent. But there's a lot of subtleties. There's a lot of things. I don't know what your mother said to you when you were in fifth grade. There's no way I can counter that. There's no way I can avoid saying something that your mom might have said to you. But I think it's important if we look at it on the other side. If you have triggers, go ahead and share that with the people in your life. And if they care, they're going to do their best to, to help you through that or to not contribute to those triggers. So that's a really important thing for you to do. Um, the the other thing that relationships show us is what our strengths are. The goal isn't about finding this perfect relationship. There is no perfect relationship. I used to tell my dad, I'm not looking for perfect because he'd say, you're never going to find anyone perfect. Nobody's perfect. And I would say, I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for perfect for me. And that's really, really the key. And the goal is to become the kind of person who's capable of creating a healthy relationship. And a healthy relationship will then end up being perfect for you. And, you know, after my experiences with all the imperfect relationships, because I wasn't healthy, um, I wasn't mentally in a place of enough self-love. I, I received what I told my grandson, you can't outperform your self-esteem, which is what one of my guests had said on this podcast. And that's really stuck with me. And so I couldn't expect a healthy relationship when I wasn't a healthy person, self-esteem wise or self-confidence wise. When I did become this more confident person and more self-loving, what happened? Then I brought in this healthy, loving relationship because then I was capable of having a healthy relationship because then I knew what my worth was. And that's another one I'm going to do is we'll talk about, dating and finding relationships and what to look for and how to love yourself before you do go out there looking. Um, so what the world needs right now is I really believe that people are exhausted, not physically or well, mentally, yes, I think there's overwhelmness, but I think people are exhausted emotionally. I think I think hate and division and criticism are draining. I really do. Um, if you ever if you were ever in any kind of a relationship where you were on the brink of breaking up, and usually we check out mentally before we do physically, how exhausting, like, was that week before the breakup or the month before or even the year, before the breakup? I think it's exhausting to be negative. I don't, I think it takes more mind power to just think of like somebody having to think of something negative to write on someone's post that's so positive. Like, that's why do you want to expend energy in being negative? I mean, I'll spend all the energy in the world writing on someone's post and encouraging them and saying they're fantastic and brave and look what you did and I love this. This is great. Man, that's great energy. That actually fills me. Same with this podcast. It's almost midnight and I'm pumped right now because positivity and I think passion and love are they fill you, with energy. I think that's the cup half full, cup half empty thing. And I feel full. I feel great when I'm sharing things that are about love and positivity. I mean, so I'm not sure why people enjoy that unless that's they're stuck in sort of that hamster wheel of negativity that they've known. It's all they've known. And they're not yet ready to be self-aware to get out of that cycle. So, um, people are tired of hearing that they're not enough. Um, we don't need more noise. Gosh, there's so much noise, isn't there? I think that's why finding a place that is yours, a place that's, a place of peace, whether you meditate or you walk in nature or you throw yourself into art. I'm one of these people that I hyper focus on something, and my husband just cannot fathom or wrap his brain around some of the things I do when I was making little mini houses, and now I'm doing some diamond painting, the each little tiny little rhinestone that you put to make a huge picture. To me, that is peace. This is what I want to focus on right now and shut everything else out. So if you have something like that, music, if that's something that you're passionate about, find that thing that closes off all that noise and just brings you back to yourself and I don't mean like sitting and just thinking and thinking and thinking, but I mean a book, something that just kind of takes your imagination away, or art or music or sports. Maybe you're a runner. I know a lot of people love to run, and they get that runner's high, and that's very releasing for them. And so I think that's very important. And I think what we're missing is compassion, understanding, and empathy. I think we're in low supply right now. And I really hope we would increase those things, and that will make us all better humans, because when you do it, you create this ripple effect where people see, oh, I want to be that way, and then they do it to someone else, and so on. And that's the momentum, right? A moment with Maureen. How about a momentum with Maureen? So we need more humanity. Um, One conversation, one choice, and one act of kindness. It all starts with us. So as I wrap up, here's something I'd like you to think about today. When people leave an interaction with you, do they feel lighter or heavier? Do they feel heard or dismissed? Do they feel encouraged or criticized? Because being a better human being isn't measured by what we accomplish. It is measured by what we contribute. That must be the best thing I think I've ever heard. Where we don't measure being a better human by what we accomplish, but what we contribute, right? Excuse me. So, as we wrap up today's episode, remember this. You don't need to change the entire world today. You only need to improve one thing about yourself. One thing, one conversation, one reaction, one choice, one act of kindness. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice. It's one decision at a time. And just like our dogs remind us every day, the most important things in life aren't perfection, status, or success. They're love, connection, and presence. And being the kind of person who leaves the world a little better than they found it. So, until next time, this is Maureen Scanlon, and I'm reminding you that sometimes the greatest life lessons come from the animals who love us unconditionally. Thank you for listening to I Never Knew But My Dog Did. If today's episode touched your heart, please subscribe, share it with someone you love, and remember, the world doesn't need perfect people. It needs more humans willing to become better. Contact me at lifecoachmaureen.com for coaching and go to Amazon for my books. Just put in my name and you will see the two children's books and the two self-help books where I talk about becoming more self-loving and how to have better relationships. And that'll do it for today. So take care of yourself, take care of others, and most of all, take care of those furry babies for me. And let's be sure that we adopt and do not shop. There are plenty of furries out there waiting for the connection and the love and the presence that not only can they give you, but you can give them. So I love you all for listening. Until boy, I don't know. I have surgery coming up again this next week, so a little bit of recovery, but I'm going to try to do some podcasting as I'm healing from that one. And then I have, unfortunately, another one down the road. So we're on surgery 6 this week, and in August, we will have surgery 7 in, it's been 13 months. So I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm gonna keep thinking positive. I'm going to keep healing, and there's a lesson in here that I'm gonna learn. I'm in the process of learning it, and I'm learning patience, and I'm learning to appreciate my physical health. And I hope you do too. Be grateful for your body and for what your body does for you when it's functioning well. So yeah, that'll do it. A moment with Maureen. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like and leave those 5-star reviews. I appreciate you so much. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, guys. Take care. Mwah.